All right, so we've got our opening line. Let's look at our first step. We need to get Celsius from the user. So we need to somehow prompt our user for the Celsius, get the amount that they put in from the keyboard, and return that back to us in a variable. So let's start up here. Anytime I create a new variable, I'm going to put it pretty much at the very beginning of everything. It's just kind of like it lays out a story. Here's my cast of characters. Here are all of my variables. So we usually put them by standard, by convention, we agree upon usually putting all of our variables at the very beginning. So I need a variable to hold the Celsius information. And so I believe Celsius, I'm going to do it as an integer for now. So we're going to do this as an integer. We're going to say I need an integer from the user that I'm going to call Celsius. And then semicolon. Celsius, I spelled Celsius wrong. Celsius. And the idea now is, hey computer, set aside a place in memory that I'm going to hold an integer, and in that integer I'm going to keep the Celsius data that I get from the user from the keyboard. Okay? So I want to get that user, I'm going to leave a space intentionally here. I need to get that information from the user. So remember to do that we use cin. Cin and then the two greater signs. Cout and these two angle brackets just outputs information to this back to the console. Cin says get information from the keyboard and bring it into the computer. So cout and then brings some data in. So cin, and then we're going to put the word Celsius, because the idea is the program is going to wait for the user to type something in at the keyboard, cin, and when they do, that's going to be put into our Celsius. So I'm going to just test my code, because I always try to test everything in small increments. I'm going to do a cout, and then cout Celsius. And so the idea here is when the user types something in, I want to output that back to the window, so that way I know that cin is bringing information into Celsius, and Celsius is storing it correctly. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to see it. So back to the drawing board. Debug, start without debugging. And I'm going to run my code. And looks like my build worked. And let's see what happens. Okay, so now there's my welcome to my conversion program. That's this line 20. The cursor is sitting here waiting. Notice we don't get all that extraneous file path that we saw earlier, because the program hasn't finished running yet. It's waiting for me to put something in. So I'm going to put in 10. 10 Celsius, 10 degrees Celsius. And so when I hit the enter key, that 10 is going to be put into this variable, and then the next line is going to display it. So I know that my Celsius variable is working well. The user puts some information in, and I spit it back out. The only thing I would suggest at this point is, well, that's all great, but how did the user know what to put in here? I need to give them some kind of prompt. They're not going to know what I'm waiting for. They're not going to know why that cursor is sitting there. So we better give them a prompt, which is why I left this space right here. All right, so remember, inside the quotation marks, I can put in a /n, which is going to create a new line return. So let's just debug, start without debugging, and let's just see that line return. So now what you're going to see is that the cursor is now at the line below. So the /n moved the cursor down a line, and it's flashing, waiting for us to input 10. I input 10, and then 10 gets output. All right, so far so good. So let's provide them a prompt now. Now that we're starting a new line, let's do another one. So cout, and then we're going to say, please, because we're polite, enter a degrees in Celsius. Okay, maybe I'll put a little semicolon, and then I'm also going to, well, I'll do it this way for you as well as another visual. I could do a /n if I wanted to create a new line here. Remember, another way to create a new line is outside of the quotations. I put 2 more of those angle brackets because I need to add something else to this. And I'm going to put ENDL. So if you are not in quotations, you can create a new line doing it this way. Or within the quotations, you can do it with this /n. Either way works. So now we should be getting a new line after please enter a degree in Celsius, and everything should be continuing the way it was. So let us, not build, let's debug, start without debugging, and check the build. Build was successful. I didn't get any errors, and welcome to my conversion program. New line. Please enter a degree in Celsius. ENDL, created a new line. So I'm going to type in 10, and it's going to spit back 10. Well, that's not the final solution. We need it to do the conversion. But I think right now we've successfully got this input portion done. We are definitely getting data in from the keyboard, and we're storing it in a variable so that we can continue next to the processing.